Welcome to the Apricot Tree Academy podcast, where we discuss impactful stories and strategies for helping children thrive in their educational journeys. Today, we have a special guest. Sandra Dallin is our co-founder of Apricot Tree Academy. And Sandra, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I usually am here, so that's good.
All right, well, let's start out. We are treating you as a guest because you
Okay,
are
that sounds
sharing your
great.
personal story today, but let's start there. Let's start with your personal experience as a parent of dyslexic children. And for those of you who don't know, Sandra is an expert in education. She has been a teacher. She has her master's in education. She is an expert in dyslexia intervention. And then she also has her own children that have dyslexia. So she is a multifaceted resource for those of you who are looking for information about dyslexia. Can you tell us about your experience getting dyslexia testing for your own children?
Yes, so this is feels like a long story. So we'll go ahead and I'll just start at the beginning. I have my oldest, when she started kindergarten, we started to notice some signs of dyslexia, and um, she was having trouble learning to read, and she is a bright, super intelligent kid, and that did not fit with her. And so I, having been an educator myself, I went to the school, talked with her teacher, and teacher and I decided let's go ahead and have her tested to see if there's something going on there. And that process was a bumpy road, let me tell you. So with this first school, we were living in a very small community with not a lot of resources. And the school was it was a great school, and the teachers loved teaching and tried to help their students. But when I went to the meeting that had the administrators and the teachers and the district psychologist, the one who does the testing for special services, it was a eye-opening experience. The teachers were supportive, the administration was supportive, but as soon as I asked for testing, the psychologist did not agree. And I had to jump through some hoops. I had to go over her head. And during one of our meetings, she said to me, well, because I told her, I think it might be dyslexia. It runs in our family. And she said, well, dyslexia is not a real thing. And as soon as she said that, you could hear an audible gasp in the room because some of the teachers, and I think even the administrator, were like, whoa, she just said that. And they knew that that wasn't correct. Um, I really think that she was undereducated in dyslexia to be able to say that. And at that moment, I had this realization, this is not the person I want testing my child. If she doesn't even believe in dyslexia, how is she going to test for dyslexia?
That's
Um,
insane. First of
it
all, you're a parent, you're trying to figure something out, and she can't even validate that you have made this observation. You're the closest human to this child.
and
Why?
I
Why? That doesn't
and
make any sense.
I came prepared. You know me, Cindy. I
Yeah,
came
bring some
prepared.
receipts.
I had a packet full of the things we had been working on that summer. Her fluency scores, how well she was reading, her rhyming, all the things, and I had them listed under bullets and headings like the signs of dyslexia. This is how she's doing. She's not doing right here. Here's another sign of dyslexia. She's doing this. And she looked at me and just told me that wasn't a thing. And then, and then she said, well, you don't want to have her tested because if she tests for special education, she's going to be pulled from the class for services. And I looked at her and I said, if she needs to be pulled from the class to learn to read, then that's what needs to happen. I want her to get the services, but she was so worried about her missing class to learn. And I thought that just doesn't even make sense to me. It was very backwards. So fortunately, after she went through the testing, they told me she didn't qualify, and my husband got a job somewhere else within a few months, and we moved. And it was a good move for our family because I was moving back to the district where I had taught, where I had started teaching, and I knew the schools. And so I was really excited to try again. And I did. I went to the team And unfortunately, it took a while for them to do it. They played the wait and see game, which we see a lot too. Like, well, she's really young. Let's wait and see if she picks it up. Well, she was in second grade by that time. And I had already started taking classes on how to teach children with dyslexia because of what we were going through with these other schools. And I knew that we don't play the wait and see game. And by third grade, if they haven't gotten the interventions, it's a lot harder. It's still
Mhm.
possible, let me tell you. And we made it through, but it's a lot harder because their brains don't have as much neuroplasticity as they do when they're younger.
I
And
have
so
I have to ask though, like, why do they resist so much just to find out? Is
there's a
it
couple
money?
reasons. It's money. The big part is money and resources.
Yeah.
So they are given a certain amount of money, or however much comes in with taxes and all that stuff. And I don't really know all the backgrounds about the money. I just know that as soon as somebody has a diagnosis for an IEP, they have to give them the accommodation.
Resources. Yeah.
And when it is a legally binding contract once it's in an IEP. So if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they can be sued, which also brings up the cost of things. And so they're very I don't know if they get it in their meetings that, "Ooh, this is not test or what," but it feels like that sometimes you go and you're like, wait a minute. But and it's mostly the teachers too, because as a teacher, I didn't know about it until my own kids. So as a teacher, I'm kind of like, no, I can help them. I can help them because you want to and you have this desire to. And so a lot of times they'll be like, well, let's just see how it goes and let me try some things with them. But what they need is they need to have early testing in all the schools to really see. Just look for the indicators. That's all they need to do. And if they have some of those potential indications, let's follow them a little closer and see if they need anything. But anyway, so we got to the process where I finally got to see the team there in this new school, this second school for my daughter. And by then I had already done the outside testing. So I had paid a psychologist to do the testing. She said she had a learning disability. So they took that and they knew they had to make an IEP. So then the school has to do the testing as well. So it's not just once you have a medical diagnosis, they qualify for special education. But the school has to do their own testing to see which kind of education, special education they're going to give them.
Hmm.
So she went through testing again, this poor girl, 3 times. And she finally qualified with a learning disability in reading. They won't use the word dyslexia. Even if you get an outside diagnosis, they don't put it in the IEP, they don't put it in the paperwork, because again, with the word dyslexia in an IEP, it now becomes something that they have to pay for, the right kind of intervention. But this school, fortunately, I say that word a lot, sorry. This school had a teacher who cared enough to do the research to find a program that would help her, knowing that it was dyslexia, even though it wasn't in the IEP. And so she looked and she found a program that she could do at the school. She pulled her out and she was doing that. And she was doing Orton Gillingham at home with me. So she got like a double access to the intervention, which was it was great. The repetition is always important for our students. So having that repetition was great. She learned to read at school through that and with my help at home, and became and still loves to read today. She pulls books off the shelf. In fact, the other day she was just sitting on the couch today reading a book. So she likes to read, and that is all because she went through the program, learned to read, and then found um, this is another story for another time, but she found a series that she enjoyed, latched onto it, and wouldn't put it down. And that gave her a love for reading. So that was an interesting process with her. I felt like I had to fight the schools. And then I know you know this, we moved again.
Mhm.
And I got there and I gave them her, by then she was on a 504 with just accommodations because all she needed was a few accommodations. She didn't need additional instruction. And the school said, well, why does she have this 504? And I said, well, it's dyslexia. And they said, well, it doesn't say dyslexia anywhere in her paperwork. And my heart dropped and I thought, great, I've got to go through this again with another school.
Yeah.
And and so I start to get a little defensive, and person that was talking to me in the meeting, she starts to get a little defensive, but I realized it was a little different. She was trying to figure out how to help me without making me upset. And it was because they did do tests for dyslexia here where we currently live. Um, so she said, I know it's not in the paperwork. So what it means is I need to test her and get her a diagnosis, and then we can go forward with this 504. And so again, she had to go through the testing process. And actually, once you're on an IEP, they test you pretty regularly anyway. So she's pretty used to that now. Anyway, so they did it. And in her 8th grade year, she finally got her official diagnosis of dyslexia. It
At
took
the school?
till 8th grade. Yes. And
Okay.
the school finally put it in her paperwork. It is there. It will be with her forever because dyslexia is not something you will always have it. It's not, there's no cure for
Yeah.
dyslexia.
You just learn,
So,
you accommodate it.
right. Well, you teach and you build neural pathways. It's really it's the way their brain is wired. It's just wired differently, and it will always be wired differently, but you can build neural pathways to help it read more fluently. So we
Yeah.
can get into
Okay.
that another podcast. That's a lot.
There
I
you
love
go.
the
Yeah.
brain. I love the brain research. It's really fun.
Well, as a neurodivergent person, not with dyslexia, maybe actually it's possible. Um, but I appreciate that. So now, is your oldest daughter the only one in your family with dyslexia?
No. So about COVID time, well, just before COVID, my son started kindergarten.
Great timing.
And it was great timing. He finished his kindergarten year, and I loved his kindergarten teacher, and he knew to look out for the signs, and we kind of noticed some. And I was doing stuff at home with him, so I wasn't super worried about it. But I knew by 1st grade if he was that it was he had dyslexia. I knew it by 1st grade, and I was trying to get the teacher to start the testing process. And of course, the only we had a parent teacher conference in the fall of his 1st grade year, and before she started that process, because I should have put it in writing, and that's the key. Let me tell you that for parents, put it in writing, send it in email, and not just to the teacher, send it to the principal, send it to the person who does the testing for your school, all of that stuff. Put it in email, put everybody in the email because they have to respond. And I put it aside too much. So by the time in that first conference, I requested it. By the time I went back to follow up with the second conference, we were in COVID. I was living in the Puget Sound, and we went dark real fast. So everyone was online. He was trying to online learn to read. And that is when I said, nope, no, thank you. And I pulled him from the online learning, and I homeschooled him. I people who homeschool are amazing people. It was never my intention to do homeschooling with my kids.
Mhm.
Um, but I knew he needed reading instruction, and he wasn't going to get it that way. So I took my Orton Gillingham training. I taught him to read in 1st and actually 2nd grade. It was 2nd grade by the time all of this I pulled him. And we learned to read together. He then, when we made this last move, he also was tested and got his positive dyslexia diagnosis, which we knew. Um, Again, I thought I'd have to fight the schools when I got here, and they were so nice. In fact, I got a phone call after his testing, and she said, "So we're going to have our meeting next week to go over the results." And she was hesitant, and I thought, "Oh no, she's going to tell me he didn't qualify or something." And she was just trying to tell me really nicely that he had dyslexia because she didn't want me to feel like that's what she was worried about, not that she was going to tell me he didn't
Why
qualify.
is there, I feel like that, I guess maybe that's speaking to maybe her experiences having to tell
Maybe,
parents. And
maybe, but I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's great. I'm so glad." And she's like, "And by the way, he qualifies for our highly capable program, our what do they call it here?
because
They call it
dyslexic
something else."
children are often just
He
crazy, crazy smart.
She's like, "His IQ is off the charts." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay. All right. Sounds great." So not only, oh, they call it gifted talented here. That's what it is. It's
Mhm.
different everywhere. So not only does he get pulled for reading instruction, he gets pulled for his gifted talented, which is a great combination for him. He loves it. And he loves both of the classes because the teachers are fabulous.
Good.
We are blessed to be in this school district. Um but again, that diagnosis was it was third grade for him. That's when we made
Mm.
it and finally got him to that. So um it can be a battle. It's hard. I know lots of parents hire what they call an advocate, someone to come with them to those meetings
Well, yeah.
because I left many a meeting crying myself. I have been the advocate for some parents. I've gone to the meetings with them and shared what we were doing it with because I would tutor their kids and I would go and say, this is what we're learning from tutoring. And yes, he has all of the signs. Please test him. He needs the testing. And I was still shocked how many times, even after you have someone come in, oh, let's wait and see. Um, yeah, that needs to change.
Yeah. It feels like your kids too kind of won the jackpot a little bit just because they had a resident expert, but majority of families are not going to be experts now. And so it's almost like they have to go for tutoring. They have to start from scratch um, and then they're coming up against the same challenges that you did, but with way less information. It'd be really easy to kind of be like, oh, okay. Uh, Dyslexia is not real. Are you kidding me right now? Because how do you speak for yourself without some authority? And even you struggled with that when you had that authority. So it's just if it feels like too, and what I'm hearing too in your story is you're winning the lottery or you're losing the lottery depending on what school district you happen to live in, what kind of resources and who's in charge of securing those resources. So um well let's unpack a little bit of the story. I just want to ask a few questions that I think probably our audience is going to be curious about. When you were observing your children, what were some of the signs that made you suspect that one of your kids had dyslexia?
Yeah, so my oldest, she was the one that I learned the most from because and then I was able to use it for my son. But yeah, they she was having a lot of trouble and I would do preschool stuff with her at home all the time. I loved getting out my teacher stuff and reading and working and but she had trouble learning those letters and those letter sounds right from
Mhm.
the beginning. It was like, come on, we've been over this a million times. And so from there, we also saw that she had trouble breaking apart words into smaller chunks, the phonological awareness, um, the phonics skills never came. She couldn't rhyme words, which is a big indicator, finding a rhyming
Oh,
word. Because you're not hearing the end sound, like the end sounds, you're not able to break them off from the rest of the word. So um, those were the bigger indicators. And then once she hit that kindergarten class and she wasn't keeping up with her peers and learning to read, and she would come home and they would give her these little books that she was supposed to read at home, and I'd be like, oh good, I get my teacher skills right. So I'd pull it out and we'd try to read together, and I would see that look on her face, and I tell people about this all the time where she just like, I'm done, I
deflate.
can't do this. I
Mm,
I don't, it's not registering. I can't read this. And she would get so frustrated. And this is my sweet child who was not like this. And she would lash out or she would just melt down. And um, that's not normal for her. And so, yeah, I knew there was something wrong. Um, and one of the key things is I called my mom because I do that. And she reminded me of um, the difficulty she had with some of her children with learning to read and dyslexia. And I thought, oh, I wonder if that runs in families.
mm,
And it does, of course.
yeah.
So we have been blessed with dyslexia on both sides of our family. My husband and I both have it on both sides of our family. So statistically, 50% of our children are supposed to have it, and we hit those statistics right on. We hit them to perfection. So it is prevalent in families. It runs genetically. So,
Okay, so let's talk about what we're doing. So okay, so here's a question. How did your personal experience, and I know the answer to this, but how did your personal experience influence the creation of Apricot Tree Academy?
Okay, so after that conversation with my mom, I went searching for how to teach a child with dyslexia to read. I was like, I can do this. I have the education. I should be able to do this really easily. And I found a program to become an Orton Gillingham tutor. And I signed up and I took classes with my newborn baby. And that's fine. It worked for me. It was online, so it made it a little bit easier. And I learned how to do the Orton Gillingham tutoring through that. I went through the certificate program. I did all of the practicum hours with students so that I could get be ready to teach kids, and I taught them to read that way. So once I did that, I you know I af so for many years I taught like I've been doing it for 10 years. I've been tutoring kids with dyslexia and or other reading difficulties. And so many times parents come to me just lost, like, what am I supposed to do? And they have to like pay the money for tutoring, or like if they live, for me, the tutor, looking into tutoring when I was um in that small town, I would have had to drive an hour and a half away with 4 young children to get her the tutoring she needed. And that's not feasible or possible for everyone. And the cost of tutoring is crazy. So for years, I've been wanting to put together a program where parents could pick it up and do it with their child and not pay thousands of dollars a month to tutor. Um, so that's kind of where this started. You and I were talking, was it Thanksgiving dinner? I can't even remember.
Okay,
We were
I don't know.
sitting there, we were eating, and we're like, she's like, I want to do
I
something with my
I want to do
degree.
something, yeah, because I just got my master's in instructional design and I have a
Right.
background in teaching, but at the university level and adult learners. So it's kind of like this beautiful blend. Like you know how to teach kids, I know how to teach adults. So let's teach adults how to help their kids in this
Right.
very specific
And
way.
and she said, I just want to do something where I put some curriculum together and we help people, and I'm like, I know what we need to do. I said, we need to help parents teach their kids to read.
Mhm.
And and I don't know, it started this discussion, and we both live in different states now. And so we've been doing
And we
like
also
both.
grew up fighting with each other. So the fact that we're
Yeah,
starting a side hustle together is kind of fascinating. It's been awesome
it's
though.
it
Yeah.
has been great.
Yeah.
And it's come together in a way that I never expected. Like I was thinking I don't know what I was thinking. At first I was like, yeah, right, this is really going to happen. But then we started meeting and we put it together, and she challenges me to work harder than I thought I would. So there you go. So it's a great product because of her. But anyway, it's just that's where it came from. My why? Because the schools are not always able to help our children learn to read. We need we, I wanted to be there to help. And
Mhm.
but I can't help every child.
Yeah.
And there's nobody who can. So this is a beautiful way to help children learn to read, and it's by helping parents teach
And
their
we
children to
we
read.
actually talked about training for tutors, and we might still do that, but this really feels like the biggest impact that we can make with this work. And we've been working on this for it's coming up on 2 years,
Mhm.
and taking our time to try to build something that was valuable. Now we're just trying to learn how to um, get some attention for what we offer because we're both kind of well, I have experience in marketing, but it's not like this, and it's so different, especially from the ground up. And so that's something that we're learning about. We're always learning.
Well, I think it's difficult. What our challenge now is helping parents find us,
Yeah,
because we have what they need, but having them find us is the challenge. Honestly, so everyone listening, please share.
yeah, that's true.
Please share this. Every dyslexia, 1 in 5 people have dyslexia. So that means you know somebody. And if you were to share this, they
And how
could
many
get the
people have
help they
been
need.
diagnosed? That's the other
Well,
question.
through the schools, it's 4%, and
And it's
20% of those kids have dyslexia.
yeah,
So that means that 16% of the kids in the school are not getting the help they need. They're not even getting diagnosed.
yeah.
With and that includes learning disabilities in reading. That's not just dyslexia. So when they use that term, learning disability in reading. we still only have 4%. So, yeah, this is my heartfelt plea to everyone who finds our podcast and listen to it, share it, please, because um, that's what we need. We want to help. We really want to
Yeah.
help.
We're really passionate about it. And what I love too is like hearing your story. It feels like the goal of this whole thing is to help parents to feel like they can advocate the same way that you had to. And you hopefully they won't have to, but they'll understand really clearly what their rights are and then what are the best options for their child to be successful. So on that note, what advice would you give parents who are just starting this journey?
Okay, a couple things. First of all, definitely request testing from your school. That because even if you do outside testing, they're going to do their own testing. So request it in writing. And if you go to, I think it's the
We have
International Dyslexia Association
we
that
have it in our
has,
free ebook about testing, so I can link
right.
that in the
Okay.
show notes. But
Well, it's good to know the laws for your state too. So there is a there I believe it's a resource to the International Dyslexia Association. I might follow through and have you put it in notes for our show when I figure out what it is. They have a list of each state with their laws specific
okay,
because each state is different. And so know your laws. I knew the laws for my state when I requested testing. And so I said, I realize you have 15 days to respond to this email. I look forward to hearing from you. So they knew I knew that they needed to respond and they knew I would follow up because I had that in there. Um, and put CC everyone in it. Take the school psychologist, and this is what I did, and her district supervisor, okay? And the principal and the vice principal and every teacher your child has had. Just put them all in there. So that everyone knows and but email it, keep copies of that email and do follow up if they don't. We have rights as parents to the schools are supposed to test our kids. If they have, it's through IDEA. It's a federal law that they need to, it's called child find. They need to find children who have learning disabilities and help them. It's their
mhm.
job. So I would suggest that learn your laws if you can. If you're having trouble and you've been through part of this process and it's been difficult, finding an advocate is um, can be very beneficial for people. Um, so I didn't have to utilize that because I had gone through the process and learned a lot about my state, what they were supposed to be doing. Um, it probably would have helped though. It probably would have helped a lot. What else do I
What about
um
how to talk to your children and support, like in conversations with your child who's struggling with reading?
oh, well,
How
this
would
could be a whole new
that's
topic.
true?
I have told my kids about famous people who have dyslexia. We talk openly about it all the time at my house. They know that dyslexia is not, it's just their brain wired differently. I use that term a lot.
And
Your
there's
brain's
lots of
just wired
success in
differently.
their future.
And I say it like this a lot of times. I say normal readers read over here in this part of their brain, and your brain likes to read over here, which means it's a little slower because of the way the neural pathways are, but you can still learn to read and you can still, and the more you work that muscle, it's like a muscle, right? The
Yeah,
more you work that, the
the
faster you can get
pathways are
and
stronger.
the
Yeah.
better you can get. Yeah, let's make those pathways stronger. So a lot of times just breaking it down and making it easier. Your brain's just wired differently, but because it's wired differently, you also have a ton of strengths. Okay. And then I'll
hmm
go through the list of strengths, which we do have listed at our website if you want to go through any of that. We also in our I know you're going to link our um my child has dyslexia now what guidebook
It's a
in
free book.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a bunch of information on how to talk to your child about dyslexia. Reading books about children who have dyslexia is another great way. Um,
hmm
we have some great resources for that on our website. There's one that my kids have loved that's kind of like in an anime style, and I've talked with the author. She's amazing. Her own child helped her write it. So that's on our website. The link for that it's in Amazon.
Well, and
Um,
I think on that note too, just like if you can make it a priority to help your child feel like they're different, they're not wrong, because you were talking about how some of your, like your daughter loves to read, but you've had experiences where kids, maybe they weren't getting that intervention, or there was so much frustration where they just turn off with the intervention. They don't learn to love reading in their life. And that's unfortunate. The way that you talk to your children matters, but also helping them to feel supported and understand their brain a little bit. Um,
Well, and
okay.
also as a parent, we need to learn about that too.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to talk to your child about how dyslexia works when you kind of understand it. So we also have a book list for of books that a parent can read to learn more about dyslexia. There's some great ones out there. Um, the more you know, the more you can help.
Yeah.
And and any of our, we have a ton of resources on our, I keep saying on our website, you got to check out our website, apricottreeacademy.com, because there we've got our literacy heroes uh, blog that has articles about different aspects of dyslexia and signs and all kinds of stuff. And when you can access those resources and learn more about it, you I mean, we all feel better equipped when we know more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, those are my tips for parents. If you're new, learn more. And if you need help
And
learning
we,
more, go see our website.
yeah, we've got a lot of free stuff that will help you. So, okay, so thank you for sharing all those resources and your story today. It's really empowering and inspiring, and I love what we do. I love this gig that we have.
It's a
It
good
just
one.
feels like we're doing something good. And I always, in my career, I've always tried to do that, try to find something that I'm making a difference and doing good for others. And so it's wonderful. So I'm excited that we're doing this podcast and that we've been able to have this conversation and learn a little bit more about your story. Thank you for sharing your experiences. It's sometimes I know very vulnerable. But now that you're in a space where you can empower others, it must be exciting for you. Thanks for tuning in. And again, as Sandra mentioned, we have uh, a lot of resources for you. So visit our website at apricottreeacademy.com. Go to our Literacy Heroes blog. There's tons of free resources there. And then there's a pop up there. You can sign up and subscribe to our email. If you do that, you'll get a free e guide called My Child Has Dyslexia. Now what? And it's full of information you need to know to feel empowered, all about the things that we talked about today: rights for your child, resources for your child and for yourself, and how to talk to your child about dyslexia. So check that out. We're excited to work with you, and please reach out if you have any questions. We're here to support you on this journey, and thank you again for joining us today. We'll see you in the next chapter.